My grandma once told me that when I give you a high expectation and you achieve it, you realize you can go higher.
New and higher standards are so important because we are living in a global economy. We are going to need to compete at a level with students around the world.
You know, it's important for our children to be able to reach beyond the rote level of understanding, because when we look at college career readiness, when we look at our own professional career choices, be they military, if it's trade, or going to college, what we're looking at are children being able to integrate a variety of skills and apply them to new situations.
Okay, so again, we're describing the sides and the angles of this building.
As the director of curriculum in my district, I've been able to work with all of our standards, K-12 and really pre-K-12, and look at the progression of those standards and how at each grade level students are building skills upon what they've learned the past year.
Well, actually, the old standards overlapped, and it wasn't as clear what each grade level was expected to accomplish. These standards make it very clear, and I've heard teachers say how great it is to know what they're expected to do in their grade level, and the upper grades are depending upon them. So it really is a continuum of learning. The other thing that's important is the standards really show students and demonstrate to students how college and career ready they are. So at third grade, you know, where are you on this journey to being college and career ready?
One of the things that I really appreciate when I walk into math classes is I see more depth. I also see as teachers are in meetings together, they're talking among grade levels to make sure that there's a greater breadth of knowledge. And I really think the Common Core is teaching students why things happen and gives them a greater understanding of how math works so they can translate that to other things throughout life.
As the Common Core focuses on conceptual understanding for mathematics, it's extremely important for my students to be able to justify their answers and their problem-solving strategies. So we've kind of transitioned, and it's a struggle for some students, but it's a learning curve and a learning process. So we transitioned from just doing this because we recall that information or we know that's the formula, but to understanding how it works and why we're doing that in the real purpose.
We're laying that foundation now at an early age versus just memorizing or exploring so many different mathematical concepts that nobody ever really gets a grasp on any of them under our previous standards. So being able to do this is setting the groundwork for problem solving.
It's important that we cover fewer pieces of information in depth because it allows us and allows the students to really explore the depth of those skills and that knowledge base. It allows those students to really get into it. It gives us as teachers time to explore it in depth and really bring in the real life component as well so that we can translate it into real life examples, determine what the kids are interested in, and then really explore it.
And the key is you have to be able to rationalize why or come up with evidence or a justification as to why you are making that recommendation.
I support the non-language arts teachers in teaching literacy. I work with them through common planning time, but it has been phenomenal to see the non-language arts teachers want to support the language arts teachers because of Common Core. That's been really, really phenomenal. We do look at, I'll say to teachers, and they'll come to me with questions, which is great, and I'll say to them, well, you need to teach your kids to read like a scientist. Reading like a scientist is different from reading like a historian, and reading like a historian is different than, you know, sitting back and pleasure reading in language arts. But you can make reading like a historian fun, and you make reading like a scientist fun. And so we have incorporated in all of our content areas, even the mathematician, we kind of take apart story problems and look at clues in story problems to make that fun for the kids.
We're excited because it brings a new level, it brings a deeper level of an emphasis on writing. And that's exciting because even at the kindergarten level, you can start to expect students to demonstrate and communicate in more effective ways. And sometimes that shift at the K-2 level is less, it absolutely includes writing, but it can be a lot about the speaking and listening standards in Common Core.
Reading does expand across all content areas. It's the foundational skill for everything we do. And more importantly, with the new Common Core, specifically with English and Language Arts, there are new standards for science and social studies teachers in grades 6 through 12.
Teaching literacy is really important in a science course because students have to be able to read information and translate that in their brain to make meaning from that information.
This is going to be like we've got a DNA strand that's just replicated.
And that's, of course, not just important in science, but important in life as well. Students, are, especially I think as our society gets more and more technological, students have to be able to read about scientific ideas and know what those mean because it has an impact on their everyday life. And the Common Core really emphasizes reading, writing, speaking, and listening skills.
It's important for students to practice the writing, especially the written piece of that early, because they need to be able to convey those ideas and they need to be able to persuade, they need to be able to inform, they need to be able to summarize, and what I call them, it's the difference between thick and thin questions. Thin questions to me are ones you can go back in the story and find it. For example, when did the story take place? Oh, it says right here the story took place in Brooklyn, Ohio. Thick questions are ones that create thought and maybe reading between the lines, and that's what, again, Common Core is focused more on, not just the basics of reading, but the reading between the lines of that.
College and career readiness means that I'm going to leave here with the knowledge necessary for not only for what I want to do in my life, but for the knowledge necessary for what I'm expected to do with my life.
My name is Patrick Yarman.
My name is Gina Stabile.
My name is Dr. Veronica Motley.
I support the College and Career Readiness Standards because it allows our students to compete on a global market with children around the world.
I support college and career readiness standards because I believe they set the bar higher in order that our students are better prepared for the world of work.